Well, hello, welcome back to Tail 3 Cabins. It would not be January if we did not cover some type of snow event, and we've had a pretty good amount of snow so far come down here in northern Ohio. We had quite a few storms already starting way back in November, right around Thanksgiving. That brought us about 10 inches of snow down here. And we just had another event a couple days ago that brought us another 10 inches of snow. I've showed you the ins and outs of using a plow, if you have a plow attachment for your front end loader, what's the best conditions to use it, what are the pros and cons involved with using a plow like that. I've also covered using edge tamers on the front end loader bucket itself, when to use them, when not to use them, what are the pros and cons of using these. I'll leave the video links to these at the end of this video. But today I want to talk about if you buy one of these tractors or if you purchased one recently, that this is not a cheap investment, that there's a lot of money involved here. A lot of us want to get as much out of this investment as possible, but maybe we do not want to add to that investment by buying more implements and attachments, which are also pricey, especially nowadays. As I mentioned, I have the snow plow in the back, and that does come in handy for certain conditions. We're going to look at my property and some other smaller types of property and just using this loader bucket. What is practical for using a loader bucket? How much can you get away with? And a lot of it is your time and the amount of diesel you want to spend. So you could take care of a lot of property with just a loader bucket. There are times when the snow plow is going to be a lot quicker than the loader bucket. And there are times when this front end loader bucket here is going to scrape down to the pavement and get most of that ice and thick snow off of there and be better than using edge tamers. Now there's other methods too. There's snow throwers that you can put in the back here. There's snow throwers that you can put in the front. Those I kind of shy away from because I have a gravel driveway and I don't want to be spitting gravel out into the woods as I'm going up and down the driveway. So I have a 700-foot driveway. We just got about 8 inches of snow, and the conditions we've had so far this winter, I would usually use the snow plow. But I'm going to try to take care of this snow event with just using a loader, show you what's good about it and what's not so good about it. Also, I take care of some other driveways, and one of them is a neighbor directly across the street. And if I don't get out there pretty quick, he's usually out there with his shovel trying to get that snow removed. So I'm going to go take care of his property first, and then we're going to meet back here and start working on mine. So I have two different situations here with our property. I have a good portion of our driveway, which is all gravel. It's about 600 feet of gravel, and then I have about 100 feet of concrete with a turnaround built into it. I also have a concrete pad that comes out in front of the pole barn here. That is approximately 12 by 40. I have a little bit of a mix. Edge tamers are great when you're on the gravel, but not so great when you're on the concrete. And the loader bucket is good when you are on the concrete, but not so good when you're trying to shovel the snow off gravel. So let's talk about a few things here if you don't want to buy any attachments at all and just use your loader bucket. First off, if you have a concrete driveway, how much do you care about that concrete driveway? Are you resealing it every year? Do you care that you don't get any scratches into it? Is it an older concrete driveway? If it's an older one and you don't care that much, well, then this loader bucket is going to be fine for you taking care of your driveway. Now, when you have gravel, the one thing that you're going to learn right off the bat if you're going to try to use your loader bucket with gravel is that you are going to gouge and dig up gravel. It's pretty much unavoidable at first. All right, so if you're an absolute beginner, but you do have your tractor, obviously you do know that if you push your loader function here forward, that the bucket is going to drop, and if you pull it back, the bucket is going to go up. So when I pull out onto my driveway and I'm in the gravel portion, I will stop. I will make sure that my bucket is somewhat level, and then I will just put it in float mode, which is just directly forward, and it locks in and the bucket comes down and pretty much levels itself out. I always think of this as if you're pushing your lever off to the right, that going this direction is like dumping, that you're going to be dumping your bucket. And if you're pulling it into the left, you're bringing it into yourself. So usually what I do is I tap twice to bring the bucket up a little bit so it is not going to be gouging into the snow itself. And if you look at the level of the bucket now, you'll see that the edge of the bucket is probably sitting up off of the ground about an inch, inch and a half. All right, so your first swipe down the driveway, and this is going to be the gravel part, is going to be your easiest. And of course, you would just start in the center. Again, I put the bucket in float mode, push that stick all the way to the front, let it lower. I use my level indicator to see where I'm at and bring up the edge just slightly. And then I just start taking off down. I usually have to put it in four-wheel drive so I don't get those wheels spinning. If you don't use float mode and try to put down pressure on that loader bucket, well, that's going to lighten up the front end, and it's probably going to take away your front end steering. And with me having the 600 feet of gravel, that it's eventually I'm going to have to let up on that down pressure so I could get my steering back. So that's another reason why I use float mode. Again, you're going right down the center of the driveway. There's little for you to do because you're just going to be pushing snow. You're basically just plowing the snow out of the center. Now, when you get to the end and we have to turn around and work our way back, that is where a little bit more work is going to be involved. So I use the same principle. I lower the bucket just like I would be for going down the center of the driveway. This time I'm going to start accumulating snow in the loader bucket, and I do not want it to start overflowing off the edges and spilling back out into the center of the swath that I just made. So you're going to have to stop periodically and just go off to the right usually and just dump that snow off to the side of your driveway. And then you'll reverse, you'll back up a little bit further than where you left off, and just constantly repeat that process all the way down the driveway. It is possible to do your whole driveway in that method. The longer the driveway that you have, the longer it is going to take to complete it. So the sky is the limit to what you want to do with this front end loader. It's just a matter of how much time do you have and how much diesel do you want to burn out. Typically when I get all the way back up here where I started from, I turn around and I do the same thing on the other side of the driveway. And it gets a little bit tedious after a time because you're maybe, depending on the depth of the snow, if it's 4 or 5 inches, well, you can make a nice long swath before you have to go and dump it. If that snow is up to 8 to 10, like in this example here, well, then you're going to make a shorter swath and you'll have to dump it earlier and more often. So when I finish with that whole gravel area, I dress it up a little bit around the apron. Of course, that's where the worst part of the snow is piled up from the plows that push it off the street. It's got a mixture of dirt, grime, and salt. So that snow is the heaviest and the worst. That is where you really have to watch out for traffic. We do have kind of a busy road out front there. So it's depending on how bad the snow event is. Sometimes the worse the snow event, the better, because there's less cars out on the road, and I can really dress up our apron nicely. If the weather's not that bad and it's a rush hour traffic type of time, it's very difficult to dress up the apron nicely without traffic interfering constantly. Have your flashers on. If you have your little road flag to put on the back, have that on. I usually have all my lights on. All right, so I've done my center strip right down the middle. I've gone on the left, I've gone on the right of the driveway, and sometimes I will just go and clean up the center again just because of some of the snow that's overflowed. This, of course, is going to go a lot quicker because I'm not accumulating the snow. As you see, my bucket's not entirely full just yet, but I will dump it periodically as I'm going down the driveway. We're pretty much completed with the main part of my gravel driveway. Now we're getting to some untouched territory where the snow has not been plowed yet, and then we're going to be getting into the cement area. Now personally, I have used our plow, but I would rather use the loader bucket when it comes to our concrete part of the driveway. Now our driveway is 30 years old. I've never spent much time treating it or sealing it. In the summertime, It's still in fairly good shape. There are a few areas where it's not level, and I do know those areas, so you do want to be careful and go slow at first, because if you have an uneven part of your driveway, you could do a little bit of damage to your loader or the edge of your loader bucket. As I said, I really don't care much what happens to my driveway. I'm not that particular about it. I don't think I really scratch it up that much with the bucket, but some people might be sticklers. They might have a brand new concrete driveway that was just installed and it's been sealed and it looks so nice, and they're a little bit concerned about scratching that up or marring it in some manner. Well, then you can do a couple different things where you can find rubber edges to put on the front of your loader bucket. Some people take PVC pipe, like a small 1-inch pipe. They cut a nice kerf down it, and they also put that on the front of their loader bucket as just a little buffer. So again, you're not going to get down to the pavement when you're clearing the snow off. You have about an inch or so of snow left there, which for us is fine. Sometimes that gives us more traction. If you get it down to the pavement, we're more susceptible to getting ice, especially on a nice sunny day like today, and then it's going to freeze again later on this evening when the sun goes down. Back to the concrete area. We have about 100 feet of a concrete driveway, and then, as I mentioned, we have a turnaround. And I used a plow in the past, but when you're using a plow, you really cannot dictate where a lot of that snow is going to go. Usually you just plow it up on both sides of your driveway, so you're going to be adding snow and accumulating that snow towards the house, maybe where we don't want it to melt and then have drainage issues. So with the bucket itself, we can determine where we want to dump most of our snow. Give me a second here. I'm going to have to clean this camera off so we can see what's going on a little bit better. So in our situation, I personally like to pile up all the snow behind the turnaround. It's out of the way, and when we do have a thawing event, that most of this is just going to thaw and then just drain into the woods. Now every driveway is going to have a certain trouble spot that is just hard to get all of the snow off of the driveway because of obstacles. And of course our biggest obstacle is the garage door here. Now some of you may be able to get into your garage. I cannot because of the height of my tractor, and it just pushed snow from inside the garage out, which I can do very easily with our pole barn. This would be the one instance where a box scraper would really come in handy, but if you are careful, it's not too difficult to just use your edge, use a lot of down pressure. As you can see, my wheels are floating off the ground right now, and back drag that snow away from the garage. Going back to the edge tamers really quick, these do bolt on to your loader bucket. And they usually hold in there pretty snug, but with a long driveway like ours, a lot of shaking, a lot of vibrating going on, that these can back off, and they have popped off when I'm using the dump function of the loader bucket, and these things just slide off. And then sometimes I'm digging through the snow pile to figure out where it came off at. So there is that. Again, you're not going to get down to the pavement with something like this. You're probably going to leave a good 3/4 to 1 inch of snow on the ground using these edge tamers. Hey, where are you going? Now with our type of driveway, there are times where maybe we only get about 3 or 4 inches of snow, and I take out the tractor to just dress up around the house and do the concrete area. But then I just want to pack down the snow on the driveway itself, so I really don't care about removing it for such a small amount. But a lot of times I will just go down my driveway in reverse. I'll put the bucket down, and I'll put a little bit of down pressure on the front edge, and I will just go backwards and go down the center first. And then basically all I'm doing is just packing that snow down, so it's going from 3 to 4 inches down to like an inch of harder packed snow. And then if we get a larger snow event, that packed snow is actually helpful when it comes to using the snow plow, because the snow plow will not gouge into the gravel as easy as if it were a fresher snow. I've got one more driveway to do, and this is a neighbor across the street that's 2 doors down from us. They also have a gravel driveway, so I'm using my same technique that I use on mine. And I'm just trying to be ultra careful here. Even though I'm being a good Samaritan, I don't want to make any situations worse by damaging their driveway somehow, or scraping their car, or even doing damage to their property. All right, so that's my annual snow plowing episode, just using the loader bucket. If you don't plan on buying any more implements for your tractor, it can be done. As I said before, the more snow you have, of course, the longer it's going to take. And the longer your driveway, the more you're going to have to stop along the way and dump stuff. Even though I'm trying to be critical of gouging up gravel, it still happens from time to time, just because the contour of our driveway is not completely flat. So when I'm coming off the little bridge here, the bucket might gouge a little bit more than it normally would if it was a little flat. There's still areas that might build up a little bit more ice or snow than other ones, and it might gouge more freely in some of the lesser areas. So you're still going to find little piles of gravel that you scooped up along with your snow, and you'll see that especially when the snow melts a little bit here and there. That is some of the pitfalls when you're using a loader bucket like that. Again, you can push a lot of gravel out of the way too if you're using the plow, or if you're using the blower or the snow thrower. That can scoop up gravel too and shoot it out. So whatever method that you're going to try to use, you're going to lose a little bit of gravel. The edge tamers will help you on that respect though, if you're really concerned about losing gravel compared to just using a loader bucket alone. Okay, that is going to do it for today. I appreciate everybody watching. Hope you enjoy and subscribe to these videos. Click on that little bell when you want to know a new one is coming out, and keep an eye on us. Take care, everybody.